think, yeah, we would expect to see it, 1,700 meters and shallower, based on its distribution in surrounding areas, but we haven't seen it yet. So it is surprising because it is here. I wouldn't call it a rare species, but I would say it's rarer uh, here, but it's not unknown.
You got a nice coral garden in the still can there.
A lot of zoanthid covered colonies here. I think these are all old Chrysogorgia colonies that have been covered with zoanthids. Nice scene here. Can we do a still cam? Beauty shot? Yeah. I got zoanthid colonies here, hemicorallium. This other probably Narella species here, different from the one we just got. And then what else is here? Some sponges, bottlebrush Chrysogorgia. Yeah, it's a nice little scene. Can we do a tight zoom on this? If we can identify it from imagery.
Alright.
Yeah, and then we've got this other Narella that we just sampled, but a smaller colony. But I'm curious about this one. It's very high density polyps. Might actually be a different genus.
Getting tossed around.
Sorry, Steve, which one did you circle? There's
This one here, the...
right. Okay, Dan, you could go for a partial there. Thanks. Yeah, please. Okay, you can go a little tighter.
One moment. I believe that was a 126 was a Niskin.
All right. All right, it looks like Narella.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Okay, thanks for the zoom. I think we're all set.
You bet. Answering that question in the chat, since we just hit 5,000 subscribers, or 500,000 subscribers on our YouTube, what are you guys going to do with the YouTube play button? I don't believe that the EV Nautilus gets the play button. I believe that goes to Dr. Robert Ballard. I'm not entirely sure, but I hope they hang it up. And hopefully if you follow us on our social media platforms, so Twitter, Instagram, like TikTok now, Facebook, things like that. LinkedIn, hopefully we can actually post it.
What's the 500,000? Is that a silver one?
I don't know. I think it might be gold. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What is this?
It's the YouTube play button. So since our our EV Nautilus Live YouTube channel has now just hit 500,000 subscribers, it means that each milestone, I think it's 500,000, 1 million, 10 million, I'm not entirely sure, but every sort of increment, YouTube sends you a placard or a milestone placard.
Oh.
And so thus the Nautilus has now qualified to get one of those placards. And I'm not entirely sure who it goes to, but if you're willing to tune in another 12 or so hours, I'm sure Megan would be delighted to answer that question. So someone in the chat wants to know, the coral we got with the sea star for that predatory study, what type was it?
It was a bamboo coral. I wasn't on watch. I was watching downstairs, so I didn't really see the defining characteristics that would help me identify it. So I would need to go back to the video. But it's a bamboo coral, some type.
And is there any way we can actually access that video? Like, is there an archive area or something like that?
For science, well, there's a couple ways. If I was on shore, I could just rewind YouTube and watch that a little bit. But yeah, there is a way to watch the video after.
Is it available to the public or just for our scientists?
125. Oh, 115.
The video is available on YouTube for the public.
Sorry, 1 moment. 115 was a botryoidal rock grab. Yeah. Of course.
I believe like the archives on YouTube go back several years.
Yeah, since I want to say 2017, maybe.
Something like that.
Because I went and looked for, because I have samples for my research, and I went and tried to find the footage.
I'm about to start gauge checks.
They didn't have it, but they do have a lot.
I don't know if, yeah, the YouTube version might be a slightly more lower quality than the full HD, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So it does make a difference if you're looking for video at full resolution for science questions. It might be slightly different than what you can get on YouTube.
Then another person wants to chat, wants to ask, what's the current like here?
It's been pretty sluggish, but from what I can see from the direction that the marine snow is moving, it looks to be consistently down current, down slope. So you can see the current here. Well, might be a little confused by the thrusters, but if you watch these kind of cattail-like sponges, you can see which direction they're moving. It looks like
There's a little.
they're dancing around quite a bit. It's a nice area.
And then a little bit of answering that question in chat for a little while ago. If you go to our Nautilus YouTube channel and you click over to the channels button, you can see an archive. There's, I believe, it's called... Yes, so if you go to our EV Nautilus YouTube channel, you click on channels, there is a channel called Nautilus Live Dive Recordings, of which you can click on and you can see dives just after a few days or a week after they come up, and then that's where you can find your second-to-second dive. Thank you to the person in chat that enlightened me about that.
Steve, so I feel like during this expedition we've mostly seen coral along like ridges and not on these shallow slopes like this. Do you think it's because the basalt here is pretty rigid and it's not broken up?
I would imagine so, but there's something else here. I mean, I think there's larger particulate matter in the water column, maybe not as large as our deeper dive yesterday, but compared to the other site, I'm noticing more larger pieces of marine snow, which might be, a good supply of food for these things. But yeah, right on the ridges is usually a very popular spot. Currents might be accelerated in multiple directions. The colonies are oriented across the slope, and the current is coming down the slope, which suggests that it's a fairly consistent current coming down the slope. That the corals don't have to do much.
Take that one out. in the tether.
To grab their food.
It's out, the tether wrap. I turned clockwise to take that out. I just have a wrap in the 6-8 and the other way.
Cracked sheet flows look like.
Yeah. With random lobes interspersed.
Yeah, I too am a bit surprised that there is anything attached to these. Usually it's pretty sparse, but the current must be consistently strong in this area such that it's not a problem to be in big, flat, open expanses. There might be enough acceleration. I'm a little interested to see what it's going to look like when we get up to 4. We're still kind of in the shadow. Currents were suggested to come out of the north at this site, or slightly to the northwest. So it would technically put us in a little bit of a shadow where we are right now.
And then here's a question for you, Steve, again.
Let's see.
So,
Light here. Yep.
area all these small stubble-looking stalks, are those sponges or coral? They seem very plentiful here.
So those are Walteria. That's a type of sponge, glass sponge. But then we have like 2 different types of corals here, both primnoids. This one, the unbranched one, is Candadella, gigantea, and this one is probably Narella species that we're trying to figure out. We don't need to zoom on either of these. We've collected at least one of them, and we have good zooms on the other. Candadella gigantea is always popular because the polyps are an abnormally large size for the family Narella, and so they're often really easy to zoom on and make proper identification. But it's been widely collected throughout the Central Pacific. It has a very, very, very wide distribution. I think it's completely cosmopolitan. You could find it in the Atlantic as well as in the Pacific. Candadella gigantea, yeah. I've seen it in the Caribbean, but it looks slightly different. Colonies here in the Pacific are larger, and there's typically a larger distance between the whorls of the polyps. So with primnoids, one of the defining characteristics is that polyps occur in whorls. So you'll have 3 polyps kind of in one layer, in one whorl, or sometimes more, sometimes 5 to 7 or 9. And then you'll have a small space in between each whorl. That space is larger in the Candadella from the Pacific, but the Atlantic colonies, I don't know, might not be their range. Or there's maybe a slightly different variation in the species, but as far as we can tell, it's the same species right now.
Gauge checks are good on Hercules and Atalanta. Gauges are good.
Then we have a whole slew of questions. What's the most interesting thing you've found on this expedition so far? I'd probably say a cutthroat eel was probably one of the more interesting things that we've seen, at least on the 8 to 12 watch.
My favorite was the ctenophore with the like electrical
The red one,
body.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was so cool.
Some of the iridescent jellies as well that flew in front of the Flat Hercules was pretty cool. Tallulah, how long has the expedition members have been at sea on this specific trip? So for most of us here on the Nautilus, we've been at sea for a total of just over a week. Steve, how long have you been doing expeditions for, would you say?
In my life?
Yeah.
Since 20 2013, I think, was my first cruise.
2013.
2012. 2012.
Cool.
Yep. Not on Nautilus. Started on a different ship.
I know, Delta Dan, you've been with the Nautilus, or how long have you been at sea for?
Delta Dan's just setting up some autos here.
Ah. We'll get back to that in a moment. And then, Davin, have you found any human-made artifacts down here? I mean, we found a flip-flop. That was human-made.
Yeah.
But no sort of artifacts of which I believe you're referring to. How often do you come across similar whale falls like the one in 2019 and 2020? Are they rare or very common to find?
They're rare.
They're
Yeah.
pretty rare, yeah. It'd be a joy to see one on this expedition, but we're not gonna get our hopes up.
Yeah. It gets complicated. Even things like whale falls, anything related to marine mammals, requires additional layers of permitting from the government entities that manage this
There's a shrimp.
area. So it gets complicated. It's an interesting observation, but for example, if we were to find something like that, we could document it, but we couldn't manipulate or collect any of it.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. Eddie, your question of how deep we are, we're at 1,963 meters. So pretty deep.
If you're at 9,000, it'd be in a trench.
If we were at 9,000, I don't think we'd be seeing any
Mariana's
video
Trench.
feed. I think our vehicles might be crushed at that depth.
There would also be no cable left on the winch. Just be sitting down there.
I think we've seen like flow like this yet on this dive.
Front row.
Yep.
If it's safe and advisable to do so, can we bump it back up to 0.3?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a...
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had some good cliffs there. This is still interesting to look at, but I think we can cover it a little bit faster.
yeah. What is that?
What is this? Hold on. Yeah. Can we look at this?
Very old stock, maybe?
Yeah.
Kind of looks metallic.
So is it fossilized?
Yeah, this one's intact. They're all over the place here.
Wow.
Anyone want to guess?
I mean, I heard what you said, so.
Same.
No. What do we got?
You were on the right track
Yeah,
with
you're
fossilized guy.
almost
Yeah, it's a really cool manganese-coated, probably fossilized, beaked whale skull.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. Can we look at it from another angle? So you can see, like, this is the beaked part, and then this is the cranial part.
Wow.
Wow.
We've been seeing them all over the place out here, though, because we saw one the other day, and then we saw a really intact one last year during NA-134.
So for those of you asking what's the coolest thing we've seen so far, that's the coolest thing we've seen so far.
This one, yeah, this one's the most intact one. The one we saw last year was, like, super intact, like, looked pretty fresh. I mean, it was still manganese coated, manganese crusted, but yeah, this is really looks out of place. Like, this doesn't look like a natural rock, right?
No.
Yeah. You want a full wide? Alright. So I'm guessing, yeah, this is... Yep.
Yeah, the beak is what really gives it away, huh?
Either that or it's a piece of driftwood, but
Yeah.
no,
It's a very
not.
cool piece
It's
of
a
driftwood.
it's a very distinctive morphology. Not necessary. Yeah.
Just very cool.
Yeah, good
Beak
to
whales,
document because they.
do beak whales dive this deep, or is this just sunk from
Oh
somewhere
yeah,
higher up?
there have been beaked whale scars found. Well, that's what we think they are, at least down to 3,000 meters or more.
Wow.
They're crazy deep divers. There was a paper published a few years ago now, I think. Yeah, can we take a look at this side? Right here. Paper published a few years ago, I believe using some Nautilus data that suggested, yeah, they super deep diving in areas like the Clarion-Clipperton zone where nodules have been considered for mining.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's so special about the bones of, or the skull bones of these animals, but I mean, they just get manganese coated, but I would thought the bone material would actually dissolve.
Huh, so just the...
Actually, yeah, so after we take a zoom in here, can we see what this brown thing is over on the left side? Yeah, of course, you're 100% right about that. As soon as we move the speed up, let me see something cool. Yeah. Anemones, maybe some small foraminifera.
So the rest of the skeleton, someone in the chat wants to know, where is it? Does it just dissolve? Does it get eaten?
That's a great question. I've asked the same question yesterday to no one in particular because I don't think anyone really knows the answer here. But yeah, I mean, bones do dissolve over time, so why wouldn't this? Is it made out of something else that we're not, It's a very interesting question.
Or it's on its way to being dissolved very slowly.
Well, you would think, like, I know manganese coating, yeah, can we take a look at this? Almost looks like a star-shaped thing. But it might just be deep-sea mucus. You would think that, that would have happened by now if it was dissolution, would have happened, but it's manganese coated, which is, in some way modulated by microbes and things, but yeah.
Does manganese dissolve or dissociate eventually? Or just does it just stay
It just
there?
accumulates, yeah. I mean, like the rocks here, they're 100 million years old. It just gets thicker and thicker.
And it doesn't erode at any time?
I don't know. Is manganese erode?
I don't know.
Yep.
And then to answer that question in chat super quickly, have you ever come across any shipwrecks or unknown vehicles, remnants of World War II warships? The Nautilus here has done dives looking specifically for shipwrecks, and I think we believe we have found a few, such as like the Bismarck and a few others that I can't name, some German U-boats. You can look on some of the highlights of that on our website, but it is, we have found them. Not on this dive specifically, because this is more of a research dive looking for corals and different types of sponges, but it has been found before, yes.
Yeah, we were just having a casual conversation about this observation, these skulls. Seamounts are thought to be aggregators for a lot of large pelagic organisms because there may be accelerated or greater productivity around seamounts in association with how water moves around them and how how water might be upwelled and fuel local productivity in the area. All right. Can we look any closer down in this left corner?
So are we allowed to, some people in the chat wants to know, are we allowed to collect these type of things, or do we have to leave them at the bottom?
It's not necessary to collect here. Yeah, so we're just going to observe.
So when you say necessary here, do you mean we have other missions where we would collect these, or different circumstances that we would collect these?
We're going to err on the side of caution here because I'm not sure what the status is of fossilized marine mammal parts. Yeah.
That's enough. So
Is a small crustacean or something. So, all right. Well, I think that's good enough. There's some small sponges that they actually look like. These look like collatericids or carnivorous sponges in here. So this is a well colonized piece of material here. Yeah, you can see really well. Like this part is porous. It looks like so good indicator that it's bone of some type or fossilized bone. All right. What's that? Oh yeah, I would have no idea, honestly. Yeah.
Do we know how big this thing is? So people in
Well,
chat?
we can get a laser shot, and after we do the laser shot, we can move on. Yeah, it is interesting to document. I mean, it's becoming increasingly common that we observe these. Can we get the lasers like right on the middle of it, if we can?
Looks like 0.5 meter or so.
Yeah.
So for those of you wondering, the lasers are about
Perfect.
4 inches or 10 centimeters.
All right, screen grab and we can go. All right, thank you.
It can be, it's
Nice.
pretty, not pretty big, but it's pretty substantial. So
1.5 maybe.
another person in question in chat wants to know, so judging by the encrusting rates, isn't it possible for this skull to be more than 10,000 years old?
What are the encrusting rates for bone? I guess that's sort of the question.
Would it have the same, do you think if it would be the same sort of encrusting rate for rock?
I mean, it's not, but if it was, it'd be 1 million years old or more, but don't suspect that to be the case.
So it's just so the crusting rates for rock and bone are different?
Right, because organics interact differently with the ferromanganese crust. Wow.
Nice.
You know, Kukui, I wonder if since there's so much manganese crust, if it does stay here and it doesn't get eroded, I wonder if there's mantle signatures once the crust gets subducted.
Oh, so kind of like once it's made, and since it doesn't really erode, it'll
Right.
just give you a signature about like how it's formed and when it was formed?
No, I mean like the chemical composition of mantle sources can change, but maybe the crust has some influence on that.
Interesting.
Because I know the sediment does, the detritus, even though it kind of recycles itself, it has mantle signatures, so I wonder if the crust does too. I don't know, actually.
How would you find out?
Well, subduction of plates is usually deep mantle. They don't melt per se. They usually sort of assimilate into the deep mantle. Our theory is at the core mantle boundary, so you'd have to, get a good estimate on the average of this crust and whether there's enough material for it to, to come up in mantle plumes, I guess, and to show that signature.
Okay.
I wonder if somebody's looked at that. I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
Answering that question in chat, when a ship is being inspected for invasive species at port, what sort of things are searched for? Do the fish follow the ship back to port? No, the fish do not follow us back to port, unfortunately. That'd be pretty cool if I could Disney movie myself and have all the fish follow us behind us. But I believe, I'm not entirely sure what they look for. I'm sure that'd be a better question for Megan if you are willing to ask it again in another 12 hours. So read it out somewhere and ask it again. With this being a protective area, wouldn't you have to get permission for things collected that wasn't the exact science you were studying for after? That's the kind of thing.
We do have permission, for certain things.
We have permission for certain things, but we do have limitations of how much we can take. And we're also very, very careful of what we take and very, very precise in what we take. So only coral samples, I think we're allowed 20 rocks, 20 live samples per dive.
Right.
Yeah. And then
as long as it's not, if we see something new, we can take it, but if we see it again, then we should leave it, basically.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to disparage populations.
Mm-hmm. So, stuff like that. It's a very sort of odd maritime law, and what exactly are we're allowed to take, what we're not allowed to take. I'm sure, again, Megan is a much better person to ask this question for. So save those for another 12 hours from now. So another person in chat wants to know, specifically for Steve.
Yep.
So the groups of stubby stalks I was asking about on the rocks we just passed a bit ago, were those Walterias?
I believe they are. I think, yeah, we're seeing a number of Walteria here, but I don't know for certain if that's what the person was writing in about. Yeah, Walteria is common around here, but there's also some small, possibly demo sponges that are in and around here too. But like this, the one that's in this frame now, that's Walteria, but old and dead, most likely, or at least dead, if not old. Yep.
Nice. Here's a question for Brandon. How much actual crust material or crustal material are usually found on seamounts like that? Well, sorry. How much actual crustal material are usually found on seamounts like that are probably from upwelling?
Oh,
What was that? Looked like a kidney bean.
so we've collected some samples from these upwelled seamounts. And some of them have crust up to a few centimeters, while other ones just have a few millimeters. So it's variable. We can't tell from, from what we're looking at right now.
We're gonna run out of tether here pretty quick.
A good amount of crust.
So then how old are these upwells, would you say? I mean, from the samples that we've collected so far.
According to the crust?
Yeah.
I didn't measure the crust exactly. But I can tell you from, the other geologists on board are really invested in this area, trying to figure out when these seamounts came about. And they have some pretty good hypotheses that they're about 100 million years old. So that's what I would expect this to be as well.
So as a follow-up question to that, someone in chat has asked, has there been enough chemical analysis of rock samples to determine a link between seamounts and eruptions?
A link between seamounts and eruptions. I'm not sure what that means.
Like, have seamounts been formed by underwater eruptions? Or
Well, yes, I mean, that's the only way to form them.
There's that thing again.
I'm not sure how to answer.
Might be a small sea cucumber.
That's a sea cucumber?
Maybe.
Or
Wow.
a polychaete?
What is that? Actually, can we follow this?
I think that may be a... I see bristles on it.
Yeah.
What? Is there two? What?
Yeah, there's
It might be a
something on it.
siphonophore because it looks like it's got something attached to it.
Isopod or
Oh, yeah.
crustacean on it?
Can we
Is
slurp it up?
Yep.
Did you say not a chance? Really?
That one right
Yeah,
there.
midwater slurp. Come on. Josh could do it.
wow, them some fighting words, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this is. It does have a look of a polychaete, but if it's gelatinous when we slurp it, how many jars? Oh, we only got.
we got a lot. We got 5. I mean 6.
Slurp on.
A sea dandelion. Sea
Might have lost it.
dandelion.
Sorry, did you say silly billium?
Sea dandelion.
Oh.
I lost it back here.
Dandelion, dandelion.
It looked slightly bigger than a dandelion. It did have a kind of vermiform shape. It was like polychaete-like, but yeah.
Yes, Jason, you're right on that.
All right. Well, good try.
Huh. Have you guys, here's answering question, chat. Have you guys had any scary moments during exploration? We've had a few stressful moments during exploration.
We're
like,
good back here.
Just the other day, we got a malfunction in the middle of our watch where we lost some connection to Atalanta. But we kept the situation like under control, and we just aborted the dive, pulled each of the ROVs back up, and we were back in the water within 4 hours. Wasn't super rough. Another question. What is the most incrustable animal that we've encountered? Or sorry, indestructible animal that you've encountered?
What's that?
If you have a second, can you zoom at the base of this big fan colony? Is this a weird brambly thing here? Just want to see if it's part of the hemicorallium or different.
Copy.
Oh, it's this thing. Okay, it's a bamboo. All right, that's good to know. All set there.
A lot of life on that coral.
Yeah.
Squat lobster's got a neat little perch in the saddle there.
Squat lobsters are slowly winning me over as the coolest animals.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Just wait till we get shallow. They get very aggressive. They're very animated.
I'd love to see one catch a
Snapping
fish.
towards the ROV.
Yeah, I was on a dive. Yeah, that one.
Oh, cool.
I was on a dive. I don't know where it was. Yeah, I think it was the Okeanos Explorer during cruise EX 1703 in Howland and Baker, and some of the squat lobsters, when you get shallower, you know, some of the ones that might detect light or use visible light, they kind of line up along like these ridge crests, you know, waiting for fishes and things to swim by. And if they see shadows, like the shadow of the vehicle or the lights, they'll just start snapping their claws, thinking that it's some sort of fish or something. It's
Like they're clapping you in.
It's neat. Yeah.
Clapping for us.
So I think we've got our first plexaurid of the dive too. This yellow fin in the lower left. 1923 meters, kind of right on cue, around right around 2,000, plus or minus 100 meters is where we start seeing them.
Oh, a cucumber tucked in there. Or is that an anemone?
I think it's a pancake urchin.
Oh, it's an urchin. It's so flat. I guess that's where the name comes from. That's really cool.
We scientists, we're not that creative, but
At least that name, like that common name, works well in my brain.
got it where it counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could call it a crepe urchin if it's really flat.
Any more zoom?
Yep.
Right. Looks like a plexaurid to me. All right, good.
Okay.
Let's keep going. We might do a collection of one of those later. I suspect we'll see more as we move shallower.
I'm gonna
Pancake urchin looks pretty big.
hold off
Pancakes.
on the move there, Lynette. I got a wall of death in front of me. I have to climb up the wall.
Yeah, steep slope coming up.
Catch that.
So Steve, going back to
Like
that
a pair
question.
of eyes.
Barnacles, yeah. Maybe.
Going back to that question, what is the most indestructible creature would you say that we've
Use
found?
this button quite a bit too.
That we have found, nothing's indestructible.
Kills the sea bias.
Well, indestructible, quote unquote, like
Yeah.
durable.
Durable?
We're doing
On
that. I'll
human
have a look
timescales, maybe indestructible.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something necessarily we've found, but tardigrades are famous for their survivability. Also known as water bears.
Around 10.
Water bears?
Stick.
They're the only organism to survive every single mass extinction in history.
And the vacuum of space. It's a fact.
And the
That's-
metaverse.
Which animal is this?
The metaverse.
And the what?
The metaverse.
Is that a dangerous thing?
It could be. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yet to be determined.
We're waiting for the next movie.
Making me feel really old. I don't know much about the metaverse.
Nobody does.
Me either.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, no.
let's wait for a minute, Lynette. Yeah, you must have missed that one.
It's okay, Steve, you're not missing out on much.
Poliopogon sponges, hemicorallium here.
I think I saw another Chrysogorgia around there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. There's some primnoids too. Lyrate morphologies. Calyptrophora, Narella, either. I think it's the same Narella, kind of that high density Narella we were seeing earlier.
And is that an anthamstes thingy by the
Anthamstes, yeah.
Anthamstes. There we go.
Anthamstes. The closest morphology is called Anthamstes tahinotus. But Nautilus collected one of those Anthamstes species back in 2019 from this area.
Ooh.
So we're gonna,
Can I ask what lyrate means?
yeah.
Atalanta heading 215.
So almost, you know, the instrument, the lyre, L-Y-R-E.
I don't.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of like a harp?
It's like a harp-like instrument. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, the
Oh,
mini
okay.
one.
I've seen that.
It's like the tiny, okay.
So that's lyrate.
Gotcha.
So like maybe that Narella species over there?
This is the same
lyrate?
one we collected a bit earlier. So that wouldn't be lyrate. That would be
Okay.
like sparse branching.
Or it refers to also the genus and the morphology of the coral?
It's more of a morphological
Okay.
designation, yeah. But the lyrate or candelabra, you know, in the case of bamboo corals like I4 clade, are very useful descriptors for colony morphology. But otherwise, you know, we sometimes we use highly branched, or you know, in the case of like hemicorallium here, even though it's in one plane, it has a lot of branches. So high density branching or low density branching are also descriptive terms we use sometimes.
Wow.
There's a fair bit up here.
There's a lot of hemicoralliums.
Heading 125.
A lot of these sponges too. There's cattail like. I know we have an identification on those. I just haven't found it yet.
Why don't you come
I like
up?
the name
You're
cattail.
up high
It's
enough.
cute.
Why don't you take that turnout for me
Yep.
while we're looking? While we're
Roger
under.
that.
I believe they're demo sponges.
You want a closer look at any of these guys, or?
No, well, we can pass.
All right, heading 015.
That's better, thank you.
It's like Atalanta's on a bungee cord.
Bottlebrush Chrysogorgia species. It seems like the good flow conditions right along this ridge are what these sponges like.
Just a little too close.
Yeah, this one. Piloderma. Piloderma, Johnston Atoll.
So it looks like you got more up and to your left there.
Yeah, right.
Nav, we can, are we starting the turn to 5 now?
Yes.
Cool.
We're holding position here, waiting for Herc to get a little bit caught up, but yeah, we are trending toward 5.
Super. We did collect one of these kind of dancing sponges a few dives ago. Oh, wow, yeah.
There's a super large sponge on the top right. So
Chrysogorgia with yellow zoanthid,
that's not a
possibly
sponge.
corallites species.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. That is
Whoa.
huge.
That is a huge piece of coral.
Whoa.
Look at the view from
That's
Atalanta.
a
It's like the
large
size of
bamboo.
Herc.
Yeah.
Oh.
For those of you at home, if you'd like to switch over to channel 2, you can see just a kind of scale of how big this piece of coral is.
My goodness.
Pretty big.
And what type of coral is this, Steve?
Wow.
It's a bamboo coral. If we can zoom in on the polyps and on the nodes of the branches, we can get some other characteristics that might help us further identify it.
It's like as tall as a person, like
Yeah, so it's a nodal brancher, branching at or at the node mostly. Very heavily calcified. The base down here, you can see the nodes have been calcified over, so they just appear as bumps. But that's usually a good indicator of a very, very old colony.
And then what's that little red thing down there on that piece of coral?
I think that's a shrimp.
Oh no, the shrimp.
Yeah,
They're
that's
back.
sometimes the Chrysogorgia. Yeah, it's probably Bathypalmonella. It's a type of shrimp that usually inhabits coral colonies.
Wow.
It's got some silent letters in there, so I'll put
that
in the chat.
base is more than 10 centimeters across.
Yeah.
So for our American friends out there, that's about a 4-inch base. More than a 4-inch base.
You saying we don't know what metric system is?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Dave. Steve. Dave.
All right. Cool. Can we come back out
Yes,
and pan up? Yeah.
A little bit of a brain
Nice.
fart there.
So
That is insane.
this suggests that
Wow.
it might be.
Jeez.
Too close to.
Are these,
Might be
is this an
jade
isopod colony or something?
barnacles.
Oh,
They'll
okay. I
usually,
thought I saw antenna.
they might be like the feeding appendages of the barnacle. They stick them
Oh.
out.
You can get a.
There's barnacles in there?
Why isn't anything climbing the coral? There is stuff
Get
climbing
set
the
down
coral.
there, Steve, if you
Uh,
want to get
watch
a
that
tight
brittle
zoom
star
on
grind
it.
right now.
Primnoid, brittle star.
Yeah, there's quite a few things actually.
I don't think barnacles climb, but you know.
They have formed. What's the estimated age of the giant coral? We're not entirely sure. It's very, very hard to actually age coral and age sponge. But we assume to be pretty old if it gets this big.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you could age this bamboo coral, but you would have to kill the entire colony to get anything meaningful from its age. You'd have to take it at the base, and it's bigger than the vehicle itself, so logistically that's not possible.
It's also very pretty, so morally it's not possible.
All right, I think we're all set with this. We're not going to collect it. It's likely in the J3 clade, Jasonisis.
Go do a zoom in there for us, Dan.
Yeah. And for reference, the Hercules is about a little bit shorter and a little bit taller than a Mini Cooper.
You can go.
This is
tighter
huge.
there on the.
Yeah. All right,
It
that's
looks
what I'm
like
at.
has it been calcified over?
No, these branches here look slightly younger. But when we talk about calcified over, we're talking about like the thickest branches of the nodes. So you'll see like normally this would be a bar across, but you know, when they're more heavily calcified, that very obvious proteinaceous node starts to disappear. You can see that most commonly at the base. But these branches right in front of us look younger. Might have been more recent growth.
Sort of like a regenerating sort of thing, or?
Yeah, it could just be a new branch. It's not as thick calcification.
So what would cause the
Thinner tissue.
what's the biggest risk to this coral? Is it falling over because of its size, or something else?
Well, it seems to be, seems
the
to
moment
have
it's
grown
Hercules.
in this environment, pretty well established, well attached to the rock. So, I mean, there's always a chance that it could fall down, but in this case, I would say predators are probably the biggest risk when they get this big. Obviously, there's a lot of material here.
Right.
Not a single predator is going to
Eat it all.
take this all down, but predation is a strong possibility. parasites, zoanthids and things are also possibilities.
Okay, Dan, you can go in. I'm getting the
Here's a
the hint from
question
Madeline.
from Mr. Joshua Beard. What do you think about fossils found on mountains and yellow brick roads, quote unquote, found at the depths? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, at first it feels, mythical and magical, but more times than not we have an explanation. I assume when you say fossils on mountains, I assume you mean marine fossils. The Earth's been here for a very long time, and environments have changed a lot. So the Himalayas, where you can find marine fossils, used to be underwater. And the yellow brick road was a cracked haleoclastite. So
What's a haleocrastite?
Yeah, so I was about to ask that.
it's a rock. It's a autoclastic rock, which is basically a volcanic rock that has broken up and re-cemented together. So a haleoclastite specifically is re-cemented volcanic glass.
So Steve, what are some of the immediate and long-term consequences, say, if we were to lose our corals, deep water corals, shallow water corals? What would we notice as a human species first?
Yeah, that's a long question.
Okay. Give me some point form.
Yeah. So
Cliff notes.
shallow. I'll just kind of list off some of the services that shallow and deep water corals provide. Oh, there's a nice. That's the Rhodoneuridogorgia, new species here.
Oh.
You want a
Sampled.
closer look?
No, that's all right. Actually, can we take a closer look at these stringy things on the rock over here?
Sure.
We'll come back to that question.
Yeah, sounds good.
That
You mull it over. My guess is there'd be a number of different answers to that.
Yeah. I mean, deep water corals are important sources of biodiversity. Unique evolutionary lineages.
Do a partial there, Dan.
Sure.
Answer that question in chat. Speaking of the yellow brick road, was that more of a palagonite or a haleoclastite? I believe it was more of a haleoclastite.
Can we
That's what I was told.
come
Yes.
closer to this and slurp some?
Sorry, where, Steve?
Can we slurp some of this ribbon off the rock?
Sure.
Do you know what this ribbon is?
This cluster looks pretty good right here.
You still want the bubble on the deck, or do you want the craft?
Something in this area is probably going to be the easiest to get. Yeah, so I'll explain what this is. I just want to make sure that front row has what they need so that we can get into position here.
Slurping on up.
All right, so what we're looking at here is a coral, actually.
We move Atalanta 10 meters closer to...
And they're one of the
Hercules.
most confusing and undersampled corals in the deep sea, I would argue.
What's
Wow.
it called?
Oh, a fish.
Nice grenadier back there, yeah.
I missed it.
So this is, I believe these are stoloniferous octocorals. So unlike big branching colonies, stoloniferous corals grow in ribbons connected by tissue, and their only skeletal elements are the sclerites that are embedded in their tissues. They
use
are
them out again, Dan?
they're really undersampled because they don't produce that skeleton. Yep. So it's really just getting lucky and getting them on a rock, and they're very difficult to sample. But with the slurp gun, we've had some success in the past. So that's what we're going to try and do here. Their biodiversity is very poorly known. Yellow and white colonies like this are I would say they're more rare. The more common color is purple for these stoloniferans, but they can be white or translucent. And I have some other collections of these from further south in the Howland and Baker unit of Prim, and I wanted to collect some more here because we're going to be sequencing a big batch of these in the near future.
Can you turn off the bender and turn on the craft comps?
Roger.
So
It's a good diversity here.
on our dives here, someone in chat wants to know, are there any invasive species of coral or sponges? And if so, have you found them on dives where they shouldn't be?
Okay, can do a tight zoom there for me.
Craft power's on. Valve is disabled.
We don't really know
Roger.
what would be invasive in the deep sea. Things have very wide ranges in the deep ocean, in contrast to shallow waters.
Full zoom this in?
Yep, that's full.
Roger.
Yeah, good, great. Yeah, this is definitely a stoloniferan. I don't know what the easiest way to sample this is going to be. I guess would just be to find a high density chunk and see if you can slurp any.
Yeah,
And maybe the crust here looks pretty thin, so maybe you can like get the crust with the coral. That would be ideal. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let me know if you have different thoughts.
The crust, you mean the...
Yeah, like the crust here, you see it's kind of like thin, and the rock maybe looks brittle. Maybe we can break off a chunk of rock, or slurp it. I don't know. Whichever.
Go wide for a second, Dan. Or a little wider.
How's that?
Yeah, I'd try and break a piece off.
Yeah, I think either option sounds good. If that doesn't work, we'll slurp up a little bit.
I'm moving the boat closer there. Got a little tug there, looks like.
I think maybe we'll try and go here, if we get it.
Come
To
down
Omega?
a couple meters there.
I don't want to come
we'll see
much
what we
lower.
get first.
I'm heaving like 8 meters.
Roger. Yeah, it was just a big heave that pulled us off there.
Yeah. I can touch down a couple.
This will be a good test of how strong this rock is,
Right?
you know.
Rock versus craft.
I mean, I just noticed that, you know, the crust doesn't look very thick here, so maybe like a lobe of that might be breakable.
The crust is pretty strong though at the seafloor. On the surface it breaks off super easily where it's unstable.
Oh, I see.
Okay, can push in a bit for us there, Dan?
Yep. How's
That's
that?
good, thanks.
Give it a good old smack.
Schmeck.
This is really interesting that it's forming branches out here. That's not typical. It might be colonizing some other space.
And then to answer that question really quick, does Herc ever pick up any bonus samples by accident off the seafloor on its way back up? Yes. Sometimes we have pieces of coral, some fish, brittle stars, stuff that attach themselves to Hercules, and sometimes sometimes they get stuck. So when we come back up, we get little bits of bonus samples that are attached to Hercules. And sometimes when we take our rock samples specifically, we have pieces of coral or pieces of sponge that are actually attached to it, so we get a little bit of a bonus sample then.
How much luck will that piece?
Anything up on that lip just above?
Try it. Let me try this angle here. It might go. Never know until you try if there's a crack. Something a piece can come loose. tiny piece of it broke loose there.
Yeah, you got something. Looks like it's moving.
This feels like pulling a tooth.
A very micro piece there, but
We could slurp those pieces up.
It's nothing.
could.
I don't see anything on there.
No. Go in a little bit. Just, yeah, that's probably good. Just gonna poke around here
this
for
ledge
a minute. See if
looks, you know, like you can get some purchase on it.
Purchase. Smooth.
I think we're scratching the rock there.
Yeah. All right, let's do a slurp.
Right. Can pulse in there again, Dan? I'm getting my slurp kind of. Can get it out with drunken bubble here.
Oh, there's a rock with a piece on it, maybe. 3 little pebbles below the cliff the ledge you were grabbing onto.
We need a little bit more than that, ideally.
Gotcha.
If we're gonna slurp that up, we can definitely put that in with the sample.
Right.
Really quickly, gonna answer this question. Hello from Germany. Guten Tag. Thank you for, or guten Abend, depending on your time zone. Not exactly sure. Thank you for your streams. More of a broader question. Do you think that streams such as yours and telepresence in
go
general
for me?
Sure
pick
can.
up new opportunities for citizen scientists, hobby scientists, like microcontrollers and 3D printers?
Bubble there.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so.
Awkward angle.
I hope that we can inspire people to try to pursue this kind of field.
Nice.
And
Okay.
hopefully try to chase this sort of opportunity that we all got.
Need sponge experts.
More sponge experts.
So line up.
Sponge
You
experts
can go a
needed.
little tighter there.
Sure.
Let me know when you want power.
Yeah, you can turn it on.
Okay, we're full bore.
Right. Go like 70 there.
70%.
Pushing the vehicle.
This actually
out.
looks like an old coral base that they've just recolonized. Yeah. I hope these don't go out the mesh though. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Look like an old coral base there.
There's some more like high density clusters up on that ledge just above you.
Well, you got a good one there.
Roger.
These coral bases right here come off very easily too. It's not crust, calcium carbonate on the rock.
Okay, right there in the middle.
Yeah, the old coral base. Oh, there's an aplicophoran, right? Oh, good, you got it. Cool. So they're small invertebrates. We're trying to maximize our value here.
This guy here that I'm just scraped off.
Yeah, we got him. Yep. We get a little bit of that.
Yeah, I should be able to.
Nice.
There we go. That's a perfect piece.
Might get stuck
I think it's
in
still
the
in it, yeah.
to do a bit of a smear.
You can break it.
We could put it in the in a box.
Yeah, it went in.
All right, I think there's plenty enough in there.
Okay.
Still in the hose.
It's still in the hose?
Yeah, that big piece hasn't come through yet.
Oh, really?
Oh, there's a little one.
Can go widen a little bit so let's see the hose.
What are these guys, Steve? Are these little corals?
Yeah, it's called a stoloniferous coral.
Okay.
STOLONIFEROUS.
Hit 5 on the bubble cam for me.
White stoloniferous coral, several fragments.
What are you at right now for percentage?
70%.
Turn it off for a minute.
That is correct.
Off.
The coral base is still in the...
Yeah.
Pan bubble back to the right and follow the hose up the wall there.
And really quickly
To
gonna
the right, what?
answer
Where
Hendrik's
the
question
vertical
again.
hose is on the vehicle. Yeah, right there.
So, do you think streams
Okay.
like yours and
Then
telepresence as a general kick up
you
new
can,
opportunities
turn
for
the
citizens
suction
and
back
hobby
on.
scientists? Yes, I hope it does. I hope we inspire people to take up this kind of field. And I hope we can inspire the new...
Was that the big piece? Or?
Yeah, that's a plenty large piece there.
All
I
right.
think there's still that coral piece in the hose,
I
Steve.
think there is too.
All right, well, we'll make a note of it if it comes through in the next flush or slurp.
I hope we can inspire the next
I
generation
turned
of
the
scientists.
suck off. You want it back on?
Yeah. Saw some pieces dancing up the hose there in the bubble cam.
Yeah.
Yeah, there they go. See them going up?
Yeah, I do. Oh.
This takes a little while to get up in there. Okay, can show me the hit 5 again? Really?
Good job, great collection. That should be plenty. We don't need much with these stoloniferans. A few polyps is enough for a good TNA extraction or several.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, somewhere in there we'll find the base when it comes back up.
Yeah, we can use the jest method.
What's that?
Yeah, he doesn't know the jest method yet.
No.
Oh.
He'll find out when
All right.
when we are doing. Anything else you want to see here, Steve?
No, I think we're all set.
Okay, you can kill that
Keep going to 5.
craft valve and power and turn
Roger.
the GFD back on.
All right.
Really?
We're back.
I don't know. And you can switch the jar to flush.
So, what is someone in chat wants to know, Friedrich from Norway, what is the difference between a flush and a slurp?
So let's see. Slurp is just a sample we're going to take, and flush is usually the jar we use to separate samples. So sometimes debris gets caught up between collections in the hose. So we'll flush it and make sure that the samples stay separate or discrete.
I suppose if you want to run the system in reverse, you can use the flush jar to not pump anything out, right?
Yeah, technically we're meant to go to the flush jar between samples and run it. I come back over towards you here slowly.
This is a fantastically rich site. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I almost want to take one more Niskin bottle here on the fly if we can.
Yeah, can do.
What was our last Niskin number?
Can you
Our last Niskin number was 1,
turn the bender off and turn the craft out of it?
6. Yeah, 126.
Okay, so that was a couple hundred meters ago.
Right.
Actually, no.
Over here.
Let's keep going a little bit more before we do a Niskin.
Roger.
The densities are getting pretty good, but I think they were seeing similar stuff at the last site.
Bender's back on.
Copy.
I'll go a little bit more, maybe closer to 5. What is that? Oh, that's just rock. Okay. Never mind.
9 light years away from being ready for a move. Roger.
Answer that question, if there have been any unintended consequences for doing these dives. My sleep schedule has been ruined. That is an unintentional
What is that
consequence.
thing down there?
Yeah,
That looks unnatural.
it does. Or out of place.
Someday I'm going to get the parts back in to make this camera more behavable. Unruly old child.
Look at this. This bamboo's wild. It had a second branch that's coming off the base there.
Oh yeah.
This looks really unnatural.
Zoom in on that guy there.
Looks like wood.
Yeah, it does.
Is it wood?
Or sponge.
Sponge.
Could be a sponge stock.
It's pretty thick.
Yeah, it looks more spongy.
It's very thick.
Yeah. And it also has some life growing on it.
Can we zoom here on the edge of it? Yeah, it looks more spongy. Okay.
Okay, can go away.
Cool. All right, we are all set to keep going.
Alrighty.
We have a question for our ROV guys. What's the diameter of the hose used for the slurping?
2.5 inches.
Same, a little smaller diameter than the base we sucked up.
Is that about 5 centimeters?
It's just over.
Just over?
2.54 is the conversion, inch to centimeters.
Yeah.
It's an odd size hose. The pump fitting on the pump's 3-inch fitting, and we adapt down to that.
Any smaller, we would have had a hard time with the sea cucumbers.
I feel like we had a hard time anyway.
Yeah. You actually run that suction pump from the aft part of the vehicle, right? The starboard side?
Correct, yeah.
Debris pile there. Do you want to zoom in on that?
Yeah, and what's going on there?
That looks like sponge debris here.
It's
Can we zoom in this whole area here?
Sure. Start at the bottom here.
Yeah.
I don't have much slack to give you here,
Yeah,
Dan.
that looks
We're at
like
deltas at
sponge
3.
rubble.
Yeah.
This is like something we were seeing last year quite a bit, though.
Let's
This
move
is like barnacle
10 meters
scales.
to the north on that.
Something very black.
Yeah.
Sure, you can do 20 to the north.
Probably just a rock, but
You want to pull, Dan?
This
Good
looks
for
like
a
something we were calling crusty
zoom there,
crusty
Dan.
flakes last year.
The name of a raw cereal? That's full.
Yeah, so what these ended up actually being were shards of manganese crust. We thought they were just like accumulations of crust, but they're actually small manganese crusted barnacle plates that when the barnacles die, they fall and they accumulate. In these,
wow.
So I'm wagering we'll see probably barnacles, much like we saw last year, up the slope a bit. Yeah, this was really enigmatic. We did some core tubes in these, and yeah, they came up as barnacle plates. Very
Go full zoom
unusual.
there if you're not already.
Yeah, it's full.
glad you knew what it was, 'cause
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Crusty flakes,
Coming to a store near you.
part of your complete breakfast.
Crusty flakes.
All right, all set here, front row.
Roger. You want to look at any more of that little train there? Is that enough?
I think we're all set there.
Roger.
Yeah, the rest of it is big chunk of sponge rubble.
It's got its own little amphitheater there.
Yeah. These Piloderma, super high density at this site. This waving sponges.
Oh. North. No, we can keep going north. Just follow the kind of the little ridge that we're on here right now.
I still can't get back around.
Here's a question for the
Little
ROV
cave.
guys.
It's a little like
Yeah.
a local protrusion there. Where we're
Who
getting all the-
designed
Yeah.
and built Hercules?
Well, Hercules was originally built in the early 2000s by Gregory Designs, I think was the contractor's name, group's name.
Oh, this is great.
And
Could a screen grab of that?
Yeah.
yeah, they did the original work on it. And a lot of the stuff is still there, but it's also been constantly being upgraded or changed, right, Dan?
Yeah, those any ROVs.
But originally it was Gregory Designs, and I think it was 2004 or 2002.
Oh yeah, Trisopathes.
Hey, it was
right
born in 2004.
What do you see up there, Steve?
No, we were noting. Can we zoom on this black coral here?
Sure.
Possible Trisopathes.
Okay, then you can do partial there.
That's great right there. Trissopathes, squat lobster. One of the branches. All right. Can we float up a little bit?
That guy?
Yeah, can we take just a tiny closer look? I just wanted to see if it was a bamboo or not. Yeah, this one here. I think it's, yeah, this is a bamboo, much like that super large colony we saw. Very similar polyp shape. Okay, all set there.
Roger.
So Steve, with these quote-unquote crusty flakes
Another 20 to the
everywhere,
north.
would you say that that's a good sign or a good indicator of a high density area above? Someone in chat wants to know.
Yeah, that's what we, yeah. They come from somewhere, and as far as we know, gravity still works under the ocean.
Wow, it's down to your left in the bubble there. It says tight collection of colonies.
Yeah, that's where we're headed.
There we go.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
This colony here is not going to last long. The one with that exposed base, it's pretty tenuous. It looks like it's getting dissolved away a little bit.
So Steve, someone in chat wants to know, does the color of the coral have any significance, or is it just based on the coral's diet?
It is maybe that diet, but it's usually something that's phylogenetically constrained. You know, that means it's, you know, it's probably something that related to its taxonomy or its evolution, something that its ancestors had produced or expressed, so that's what they continue to do. Yeah, there's a lot of big stuff here.
Wow.
Yeah. So huge hemicoralliums.
They look almost vein-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very, very fragile.
How brittle would you say these kind of corals are?
Very. No, I'm trying to think of a good.
Didn't you use the frozen pool noodle analogy?
I'm trying to think of a. Oh, that was for like Paragorgia. These are. This is a different family.
Would you say
These precious corals? Yeah. So if you can imagine, like.
Are we like saltine cracker type kind of fragile?
No,
or?
even more brittle.
Oh wow.
Brittle star kind of brittle?
No, like way more brittle.
Wow.
No, they're yeah. If you, well, they will like shatter. It's, you know, it's closer to like, you know, softer than glass, but you know it'll crack like glass.
So is
you
it
bump it, it'll come off in a chunk, but that chunk will break into 1,000 pieces.
like
a
dried
potato.
seaweed type thing?
Sounds like mica to me.
Yeah, it's super fragile. I don't know a good surface comparison.
A potato chip?
Yes, that is better. That is
Nice.
like a very crispy, thin potato chip. Yeah.
Nice.
But you know, the ones at the bottom of the bag, you know, you really got to fish around for?
Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
like Pringle. Pringle is a good, yeah, like that brittle.
I want potato
Like they're
chips
already
now.
broken before you even open the thing.
Yeah.
All right, this is great. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we're moving. Waiting for the boat to
yeah.
for, we just came off of tail to tail, so we're getting closer all the time.
Is that the new Metallogorgia species too?
Also, yeah, yeah, the Rodinivridogorgia, new species, currently being described.
What's our bearing to the waypoint?
Oh, there's also some Chrysogorgia there in the background.
255. Huh?
Interesting looking overhang right there.
Really?
Some squat lobsters here. This white Cavithiids.
So you want to chase this cliff up for a while, Steve? Because
Yeah, what is it going north?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's something, oh, there's a fish in the Rodan and a Chrysogorgia.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's he doing?
That would be a golden shot
Wow. Nice.
if we could get the fish with the coral.
Yeah. It's tucked on the left side
Good
of the coral
eye.
there, Dan.
I didn't even see it. I thought it was part of the coral.
You can just see its little tail moving around.
Yeah. It's doing something.
Yeah, let's do another 20 north.
Ready with the higher.
Yeah, yeah, like Dan said, we'll do one more move and see where this takes us.
Zoom in there if you want.
Yep.
Yeah, this is great. This is like,
Brittle star,
this is gold
shrimp.
footage
fish.
for the monument.
Wow, that brittle star is moving.
Yeah, they do that. I don't know why they jump
Goodbye.
like that.
Okay, see you later. Did he land on the other coral? Oh no, he missed.
Okay.
Oh no.
He missed the base jump. Yep, he missed.
But they can climb back up, right?
Sure.
It'll only take
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
That sponge looks like a heart.
It does.
Aw.
How cute.
I mean, the frightening thing with brittle
Yeah.
stars is they can
Nice
swim if they want
picture.
to.
Oh,
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, the whole scene here, this is kind of characteristic of what we were seeing a bit further north
Sorry, Tim, I didn't
in
hear
previous years.
that. In the zone.
That squiggly bit.
So
Yeah, it looks like maybe a dead branch or something.
Yep. Some sea urchins too,
Oh yeah, I
down
see
here in the
him.
middle.
Another
Center.
pancake maybe?
Yep, pancake.
So Steve and or Dan, what is the most surprising way a marine life has responded to the presence of an ROV?
That squat lobster story you were telling me.
Still, the
Yeah.
Scott Lobster trying to challenge you.
That happens. I don't know which cruise this was on now. I was on a cruise where large red crab with the big claws, I think this might have been off of Olympic Coast or something like that, climbed onto the front porch and then climbed
wow.
up in front of, on top of the camera. And it was right in front of the camera for about 10 minutes, just trying to climb into the vehicle.
Taxi service.
And Steve, you said there
Or
no,
tanner crab. What? Yeah, tanner crab, not red crab. Big ones.
Answer that question. Don't the rockfish chase the laser? I've heard sometimes that fish will maybe chase the laser, and maybe octopus as well. But we have not seen any fish chase the laser so far.
Well, Dan told us about a squid that would look at the laser and it picked up the rock and chucked it.
Chucked it, that's right.
Yeah, the Humboldt squid on the west coast are really aggressive there. They chase the lasers.
Is that, oh, that's really interesting. Oh, here, another question from chat. That's really interesting to see the fish in there. Usually do they avoid the coral, or do fish potentially get stung by coral?
Yeah, it's a very interesting relationship. It's probably not predatory. They're not, they're not eating fish, the corals. What's going on is probably there's some sort of
We'll let the move play out here for a minute.
what direction is west? Is that to our? Yeah, it's kind of like upslope to the. Yeah, I think
To the
maybe.
left, yeah.
I think we're right in a good spot. I just don't want to head off into the upslope and then end up in like the middle of the, wall, off the wall in the middle of the blue water.
Into the unknown.
Be nice to track this up to the northwest for a little bit.
And let me come back down and see which way it goes. Kind of on the top here.
Have we seen, answer the question in chat, have we seen any sea spiders on this expedition? Yes, we have. We saw a sea spider actually just yesterday. Just chilling on the, I forget if it was on a rock face or something like that, but just yesterday we saw a sea spider actually. Really
It was
cool.
eating a coral, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
It was a little terrifying.
It wasn't terrifying. It was cool.
If you're an arachnophobe, yes, it's very terrifying.
It kept everyone else focused on the sea spider while I struggled to put the rock in the bin.
Were you putting a rock in the bin?
Yeah.
Oh.
I see no one noticed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody saw Gibson try to flail a rock.
That was the big rock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that one was heavy.
Oh, look at this. Big
support there.
sea star.
Yeah.
Sea star?
Where's the sea
Oh,
star?
how are
there
you
it is.
seeing these
Huge.
things?
Good eye.
Wow.
Where is it?
Front and
I'm
center.
still not
Just to the
seeing
left of the
it.
lasers.
Me either.
Maybe
Right,
asteroid of some
yeah,
type,
right there.
maybe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Look at them go. For those of us with the stream, it is just to the left of the lasers. You can see this big old sea star splayed out.
Kind of see a transition from lobate to sheet flow.
Gonna do a quick zoom on the sea star there.
Yeah.
Do you think he's making his way towards the coral to feast?
I don't know. I know that sea stars will eat just about anything here, but I don't know if they're eating precious corals as much. I don't see them very frequently on precious corals. Sea stars will.
Oh, what's that, eel or something?
Synaphobranchid, cutthroat eel.
Nice.
To answer the first question in chat, if you did miss any part of our streams, there is a highlight reel that comes out every few days, every week or so. And if you'd like to go check that out, you're more than welcome to.
I am coming to the west here and gonna drop back down.
And I'm sure you can catch up on some of the highlights that you might have missed.
Feature goes. Roger. Stand by. Copy that.
You know what this colony is?
It looks like a big rock.
Oh.
Bring your head.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well,
I'm trying, but it's not. It's not swinging.
Does it have the more of the
I'm like,
Sponges on top.
set point's 90.
Yeah.
It looks like the
Set
stall
point's at
first
180, but I'm
coral,
looking 270.
although it's probably just barnacles.
Right, I see.
There's some of
Further
those like
south
wavy
than that.
sponges on top.
Okay.
So, what's the bearing to the next waypoint?
I have a slight, yeah, can we go slight change to that? Can we go slightly up, north of where waypoint 5 is? Yeah, like right there, kind of just track up that way. Because I feel like if we go towards waypoint 5 directly, we're going to end up going off into the blue water somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I'll do like a lazy turn.
Yep.
How about 290?
Answer that question in chat. Do you have the ability to quote unquote draw on
You
the
ready?
live stream like a kind of football replay?
290.
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay.
We can actually draw.
Bridge nav.
But it's just on the screen for our
20
scientists.
meters, 290, please.
And the people in the actual van, so it's easier for us to see. So unfortunately, we cannot show that on the live stream because it's a different software.
Now there's another one of those big sponge bases we thought was wood earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Answering that question in chat, is the current strong up here? Not really. It's been sort of sluggish throughout most of the dives so far. And I'm not sure of the main direction. Steve, do you know the main direction of this these currents?
Well, the models suggest the currents are coming out of the north, but from what I've been seeing on the ground here, I don't think I have a good direction.
Seems to be flowing from left to right in our view there. And I'm kind of looking northish, so flowing kind of to the east at the moment.
Yep.
It's just coming up over the, coming up the hill here.
Wait, you said can you repeat that? Did you say out of the north?
No, it's to the east, to the northeast.
Yeah. Okay.
Although that might have just been the direction you were swinging. Like right now, it looks like it's coming out of the north, actually. Or it's coming towards us.
Towards the northeast, yeah. Seamounts are very complex hydrodynamic environments. Sometimes you've got a lot of swirling effects from currents that are prevailing currents, and then you get small eddies and things that spin off of seamounts. So it's not unusual to have kind of smaller currents in and around the summits of the seamounts that are contrary to what your models for the larger area might suggest.
Can you turn that HVAC off again on it? So you turn the fan off.
And the currents from the models,
Right,
those
you
are
wanna keep
models
going in
from
this
the currents
direction?
underneath
sure.
at depth.
Repeat that?
Bridge nav.
So the currents that are on the model, are those the currents that are the currents being modeled from at depth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bottom currents, yeah.
Another fish so far, but right there.
Yeah.
To answer that question in chat, so if this was an analog on land, you guys
do a DBO reset when you get a chance.
you guys are trying to find the windiest part of the mountain, right? No, not necessarily. We're just trying to make our way to our certain waypoints that we pre-mapped out. So it doesn't necessarily need to be on the top or the quote-unquote windiest part of the mountain. We're just trying to find the most biodiverse and more dense areas. Oh, look, there's a fish.
Typically, those two things are correlated, though.
Attacking something?
But not always.
Not necessarily, yeah. How strong are the tidal influences at this depth?
That is a great question and a very difficult question to answer. You know, even though we're very far from land, there are still tides, although we really wouldn't perceive them as such. But you know, surface tides are one thing, but oftentimes in the deep sea mount environment, what would impact these sites are probably internal tides or internal waves that happen along density interfaces in the deep ocean. So those are sometimes extremely long wavelength and can you know, persist for longer periods of time. All right, cool. Yeah, this is
Sea
still
cucumber.
very extensive.
Is that a really big one? Or it's just because we're far away?
Where?
Ah, pancake
On the right?
urchin.
Oh yeah, moderate
Where's the pancake?
size.
Oh,
yeah.
there's the pancake on the right, too.
Sea cucumber.
Yeah.
Pancake urchins. Lots of these hemicorallium and these bamboo corals over here seem to be dominating now, but there's also a lot of smaller primnoids.
And a bunch of hemicoralliums.
Do another move on that bearing. Yeah.
I believe the tidal influences also create the ripple marks in the sediment.
Yeah, right. Yep. Especially at depth, internal waves, internal tides can make their influence can be felt in the sediments on the seamounts where they accumulate, and those ripples and waves can be used to diagnose, you know, current directions for internal tides or waves. Tides or waves. Blah. Too early.
It is currently, for those of you wondering, it is 6:39 or 6:40 Hawaiian Standard Time, of which is the time that the EV Nautilus ship runs on. And then question for you, Steve. Are these yellowish red corals we're seeing paragorgids or covered in zoanthids or different types of coral?
That's most likely what they are, yeah. We did see some paragorgia with zoanthids, so there are some species of paragorgia that are characteristic of the zoanthids. One is called Paragorgia coralloides, which is usually almost always found with its yellow zoanthid. But zoanthids can colonize many different types of corals. I think this might be a good time to do a Niskin bottle on the fly.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Atlanta to move the way we want, so
Okay.
it would be a good time.
Yep. Yeah, so we can get down to within a couple meters of the seafloor and pop it.
Yeah. What? Atlanta behind her. Goodness.
Your altitude is 6 meters right now.
Just gonna spin around here and come upstream of the come right on the ridge top here. A good spot for one.
Another fish?
You got got the bender
Yep.
off in the
Why?
Swimming across the stream. Well, it's gone
a
now.
shrimp?
Where's the fish? I don't see it.
Is that a shrimp?
Oh, that might be a shrimp.
Power's
Yeah.
on, but valve's
I don't
off.
see fins.
It could be. Looks
Can't
more
tell.
shrimpy to me.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Good spot. Yeah, we got. This is interesting. I mean, we've got old colonies, like these larger colonies, but we've also got small recruits, which suggests that this area is really important, possible coral nursery habitat. It's actively being recruited.
It's interesting terminology. Recruiting.
Recruiting.
Yeah.
It's a biology term. We say recruit to mean that a larvae or some juvenile organism has left the plankton and joined the larger population settled on the seafloor. All right, that's a pop. Sample number
129.
129.
Then another question from chat. Hello and greetings from Finland. I just joined the stream. I was wondering, do you guys have any specific goals in your current research, or is it more just general exploring?
Valve off, bender off.
Right, thank you.
Geology has specific goals. We want to find out the age of these seamounts that we've been on. So we're collecting basalt samples and gonna analyze them later using mass spectrometry. And then once we get the ages, we could potentially correlate that to an age progressive sequence found here within the Line Islands. And then with the age progressive sequence, we can maybe get some absolute plate motion models.
I want Argus out, or Atalanta out that way.
I mean, exploration is, it's what we do. It's, we're not doing hypothesis-driven research necessarily out here, even though the samples that we collect might support hypothesis-driven research. But for the most part, we haven't necessarily come to this place with a hypothesis in mind. We're really looking at seeing what's here. And any collections we make will be used to help research and scientists who are doing research in this area. But it's a combination of things. We don't know what we're going to find when we go down to a place. Almost certainly we're going to find rocks because we have really good maps of the seafloor that tell us the geology here is very positive for rocks. It's an old volcano, but we don't always know if we're going to find corals in a spot. So that's kind of the exploratory aspect of this. We don't know what we're going to find sometimes.
Thank you.
And whether we do find biology or not is actually really important because it tells us something about what these animals need to support these habitats, these deep water ecosystems. And if they don't have everything that they need, we won't find them in an area. This appears to be a pretty healthy, good, thriving community we have here.
Yeah, glad you could hang out.
Another question. Again. Hello from the United Kingdom. What has been the coolest creature you've seen so far on a dive? Probably a cutthroat eel, at least for me. I think probably, Steve, would you say that probably the sperm whale or the whale shark would probably be the coolest thing you've ever seen?
they're definitely the biggest things I've ever seen. I don't know about the coolest. To have to think about that. I was on an expedition last year, actually not too far from here, but we were in the international waters south of Johnston, northwest of Kingman Reef, EEZ, and we found a glass octopus, which was a very popular highlight for that cruise. It's basically it's completely translucent, transparent octopus. You can see all the internal anatomy. It's a pretty neat animal.
Yeah, just seeing the internal anatomy of the sea pig was cool enough. I couldn't imagine seeing an octopus like that.
Yeah, yeah, the octopus is cool.
So was it like a sea pig, but with like arms and tentacles?
Yeah,
Nice.
pretty much. Let's see if I can pull up a photo of it. It's such a good highlight now. If you Google glass octopus, it's the only thing that comes up.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Very cool.
Oh, nice.
That's trippy. Does it bioluminesce too?
I'm sure it does, but using the cameras we had, we wouldn't have seen its bioluminescent properties. I'm guessing those, so these green cells here, these are similar to how squids change color. You know,
they're chromatophores?
Chromatophores, yeah. So in the deep sea, I would imagine they probably have some properties that would, you know, either biofluoresce or bioluminesce, something like that.
Okay.
The strange thing was it wasn't terribly high up in the water column. It was maybe, 20 meters above the bottom. So it's more than likely they are, using the benthos, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
But definitely well suited for the midwater.
Wow. That's so cool.
I mean, my favorite or coolest thing always changes from cruise to cruise. I think it's whatever animal I saw that was like most rare or most unexpected to see during that expedition.
Sideways down the hill here. So.
It's usually a coral.
What has been your favorite coral on this cruise?
The stolen effort we just collected.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to looking at that.
What are you hoping to find?
A new species? Question mark?
I'm a big fan of the Victorgorgia.
Yeah, Victorgorgia is popular.
I'm still liking my bubblegum.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. Bubblegum's probably. Bubblegum is superior.
Take a look at that. It looks rocky. What do you think?
That right there?
I think it's might be spongy.
It just looked like sediment, but with like, spongy, whatever. I forgot what you call it.
Debris.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I would call a good ridge.
Good ridge, bad ridge, good ridge.
These corals are everywhere.
Yeah, they are. That is a huge colony. Wow, on the other side of the ridge there. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah, these are enormous. And, the thing that surprises me a little bit is that I've seen some fallen ones, but not many.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Hemicorallium, which is what these pink colonies are that are probably the overwhelming majority, with these bamboo corals over here being number 2 of the most abundant large things, is that Hemicorallium has a, it's thought to be a parasite, or it's probably parasitic in some way, polychaete worm that lives